computer. I hate this computer. It's always telling me it's 7:28 or 8:28. I'm on Russ's time. So, hey guys, tonight, my jigalones, we are going to talk about Opae Ula shrimp. It's kind of a long time coming. To be fair, I didn't want to just have Russ's shrimp on here because I know he has probably several huge colonies. I have one moderate colony now that started from, I think, 6 or 8. Might have been a 6 count from Russ himself. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Next week, I don't know why I'm starting with this, but next week I'm going to do just me. Kind of like, it might be Wally too. I reached out to Wally, I haven't heard yet, but kind of just a community appreciation day. So we've been doing some negative stuff. I don't want to focus on that all the time. So we're going to do a community appreciation day. I think the community is what keeps me here. And that's what started ISO Buddies, right? We're all buddies. So, and with great buddies comes great responsibility to each other. All right. So that said, I'm about to cry. That said, let's bring Mr. Aquarimax himself, Obi Rus Kenobi.
Hey.
Welcome back to the show, Russ.
Glad to be back. Always
Bob
a good
Russ.
time.
Obi Rus Kenobi. Could it be Bobby Rus Kenobi?
Could. Then I'd have to do all three. I'd have to wear the wig and the Jedi robe, and it'd be crazy.
I'm down. Yeah.
Next Halloween.
If I get 2 more patrons, I'm down to do that. Speaking of which, we got a new one. I'll mention that later. I was very excited. But Russ, we've got Opae Ula shrimp. What can you tell us about them before we show them off?
Before we show them off? Well, what do you want to know? I guess there's so much to know, and there's such a cool shrimp. Well, maybe we should start out with the name, Opae Ula. Where's that come from? It comes from Hawaii, because so do the shrimp. Opae means just shrimp in Hawaiian, and Ula refers to their red color. So they're red shrimp.
It's just red shrimp.
Yeah, that's what it means in Hawaiian. And they are 100% endemic to Hawaii. They live on various islands, and there are different populations in different parts of the archipelago. But yeah, you cannot find Halocaridina rubra, which means red salt shrimp, the Latin name.
Hold on just a second. It just said we went live like 10 seconds ago.
Did it? Oh, I thought
timer's at like 10 seconds.
On my end, it says 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Weird.
Green Jedi Monkey said something earlier, so it must have been going. So, I hate my computer. I'm sorry. So, salt shrimp.
Yeah, so red salt shrimp. And they are a really interesting shrimp because they don't live in the ocean.
They don't. That's true.
And they don't live in 100% freshwater. They live in a very specialized environment, the ankyline pool, which are pools that are connected to the ocean underground and get some of their water from the ocean via these network of crevices and cracks underground and so on. And then they get the rest of their water from rainwater and runoff. So it's fresh mixed with salt. So it's brackish water. But an ankyline pool only qualifies as an ankyline pool if it exhibits certain characteristics. And one of those is it has a dampened tidal rhythm. So the pool rises and falls with the tides, not as much as the ocean does, but slightly, because it's somewhat connected to the ocean. And because of that, these shrimp travel underwater, under the ocean in crevices and cracks. They can live in salt water. They just don't breed in it. And so they will travel between islands underground, under the ocean, and come up in other islands. And so that's how they've spread across all the different islands in Hawaii. And if you dig a deep enough hole in Hawaii, in many parts of the islands, it will fill up with this mix of fresh and salt water just naturally because of the water table, and shrimp will show up in it, even if it's miles away from another pool. One of the most famous
these tunnels just interconnect all under Hawaii.
Right. One of the most famous examples, there's an island called Ko'oholave. That's a really small one. Nobody lives on it. But it's big enough. They had a bomb test site on this island, Ko'oholave. And when they left this huge crater in the island, there were no records of these shrimp ever being there before. They left this crater in the island. Within hours, the water had started to fill up the crater, and these shrimp showed up
Within hours
within hours. So they're
of a whole
they're
thing.
they're populating these hypogeal or the subterranean environments that are filled with this mix of fresh and salt water. And whenever the opportunity arises for them to surface, they will. Wherever, whenever, as long as the opportunity is there. So they're really unique shrimp from the standpoint of the ecological niche they fill. It's quite unique.
That is wild. I didn't know that. Now I understand they can live almost like they really don't do well in straight freshwater. Is that right?
Right. They don't do well in straight freshwater, but it can be very dilute brackish water. The lowest salinity I've ever kept, and this was for years, and I bred them in this too, was 1 part saltwater to 8 parts freshwater.
Okay.
So they will breed in that. You can keep them if you want them to survive. I mean, they can survive in 100% marine salinity and even higher. They will survive in it. They just won't breed well in it. So you want to get the sweet spot is usually to try to get about 50%, so half fresh, half salt. That works really well, and tends to because you don't have to worry exactly if you're at 48% or if you're at 40% or if you're at 62, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They'll do okay. So you don't have to be extremely nitpicky about it, but just somewhere aiming for that, and you'll be fine.
Mine is like loosely measured, so it works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say hi to a couple people here. So we've got Jedi Monkey. We've got Russ is here. All right. I don't know if Wendy is still here. I hope so. But it's like 2:30 at her place. Lake to Land, Moon, Grumpy Moose already making fun of me. Oh yeah, my USR cat. So we got this at NARBC, and then promptly lost it. I just found my hat and my sticker that they threw in a bunch of stickers. So real nice of those guys. They're doing good work over there.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me get rid of this one. I want to hear myself. It's weird not hearing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got these guys. I was super interested because they the challenge was that they are the easiest pet you can keep. And you told me all of these things, and I just did not believe them. So I did not believe you. The selling points for me were you feed them every couple of weeks, like a little tiny bit of a pellet. And let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So, guys, we finally have shrimp. And I did it backwards from what I told Russ. But this is Russ's tank. So we put a pellet in there, a quarter till? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
10 minutes before we came on. And this is, what size tank is this, Russ?
This is a 10-gallon.
This is a 10-gallon. Okay.
And there's
these guys, yeah, you can see the pellet 10 minutes after it went in.
Yeah. And there's probably 200 something shrimp in here. I don't know, maybe more. It's one of my, how many tanks do I have? Just a second. I have 4 Opae Ula tanks, 10-gallon, 5.5 gallon, a 3-gallon, and a 2-gallon.
Wow. We already got a lot of questions. Guy Bob, Wendy's still here. Do aquatic inverts and on average take less feedings than non-aquatic? I don't.
It depends on the.
No, I think they survive on things that are in the water better. But I don't know that, like, in general.
Yeah, it's hard to generalize because there's so many invertebrates with different metabolic rates and different food sources and whatnot. This is just hard to say.
Yeah, these guys, we're just specifically going over these guys, which are, yeah. Okay, so the other things about them, they need no filtration, no water movement. They need a light to keep the algae growing in their tank. That's it.
And that can be ambient light if it's enough.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if it's super dark, then no. But I have 2 tanks that have artificial illumination and 2 tanks that don't. But they get some indirect, light from the environment, and they're doing fine. I have been keeping Opae Ula since 2004, so about 20 years.
20 years. So you still have some of the same stock.
I very well may have some of the same stock because they will live. There's documented cases of them living over 20 years. So
wow, I had heard 30. I had honestly heard 30, but 20 years for shrimp this size. Like the big ones in here are maybe the length of your pinky nail. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Some of them a little bit bigger, maybe, but not a lot bigger. I don't think I've ever had one quite hit an inch. Some of the bigger ones will get close to maybe 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah. So, and they need nothing. No filter, no air, no nothing.
Right.
These are brackish moose. Or Dan, these are brackish guys.
Yeah. So they do need a little bit of salt in the water, but not a lot.
They're crazy easy. And once you set up the tank, you let it cycle. I think I did 6 weeks. I think that's what you talked me into.
Yep. 6 weeks is usually good.
Yeah, just let it grow, and then they live off basically the biofilm and bits of the algae, and they don't really. Their metabolism is super small. But to be fair, I think you sent me 2 females that were either forming their eggs or had eggs already, because I noticed buried shrimp like almost immediately. And I mean buried like a berry you eat, like a strawberry. That's what us shrimpers call our shrimp with eggs under their belly.
Yeah, because they look like little berries they're carrying under their belly.
They do. It's like a little cluster of grapes. And they're a lot of fun to watch because the babies are like semi-larval. I think, is that the right term?
Yeah, they're kind of a larval form. The correct form, I never know how to pronounce this, but it's spelled Zooea. Zoea, I guess.
Okay.
Which is basically, they're larval. They don't have walking legs. They have swimming structures, and they're for their first couple of weeks, and then they molt out of those. And
yeah, they just kind of bob around in there, and they'll be in the water column right at the light, in my experience.
Yeah, they tend to be attracted to light.
Yeah, kind of the same spot like your brine shrimp, Nauplii,
yeah,
would be like that column. And they just hang out. So, and then eventually you'll have tiny shrimp. But I didn't know I was having babies. I just thought the eggs just went. So I was freaking out. And then they were really, really cool because they just, all of a sudden I had more and little tiny ones and all over the place. Speaking of mine, let's take a quick look. This is the difference. This is like a 4-gallon tank, 3.5 gallon, one of those cubes. Now I'm trying to show you with my mouse, just over that center, you see where the shrimp are kind of congregating, just over that little ridge is my food pellet. So this is probably most of my shrimp in this shot. But mine are not as red as yours. I wonder if my light is washing them out a lot.
Could be
There's
that.
a guy right on the glass that's really red.
And I've got mine on green, so they kind of stands out on that too.
That's true. I kind of thought they might stand out against the dark rock, but I made a lava cave kind of to give them, well, not that they ever would know what their homeworld is like, but I thought it would be cool to take 3 big lava rocks, and our Petco isn't very smart about how they label their rocks, so I think I got all 3 of these rocks that are it's almost 2 pounds of lava rock, and it was like $8, I want to say.
Not bad.
$5 to $8. So yeah, the guy, they're like, I don't know if they just hate the place they work for or what, but oh, Aunt Sandy's here, Menagerie's here. Cheeto loved her fancy snails. You gotta get those. She's buying snails for her blue tongue skink.
Oh yeah, I saw that on her Instagram.
Yeah, I just found today blue buffalo. Is that the dog food?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's blue buffalo. They have a canned food that is trout, venison, and rabbit.
Oh, nice.
So we're trying that out today. So we did get the heating situation under control.
Cool.
What's the smallest container you have these guys in? Because you could literally keep them in a mason jar.
Honestly. You could. My smallest container I have them in currently is a 2-gallon, but you can totally go smaller. They have, when I first started out, I had some of mine in I think it was a pint container, maybe.
Oh my God.
And because that's what
fine.
And that's what they came in, and it was fine. But I didn't keep them in there because I didn't think it was, it's not great for breeding, and I just figured I might as well give them a better home. So I put them together when I first started out. I think it was a 1/2 gallon, and I had 35, 40 of them in a 1/2 gallon, and then I upgraded, over the years, and sometime I think it would be really nice to do like maybe a 20 high with about 1,000 of these in it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know how many I have right now.
Thin, Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah,
imagine something like
something like
real thin,
that.
like a window almost, like
That would be
high
really
and
cool.
then
Make
really
it
wide.
high. Yeah. Yeah, and put lots of rock crevices in there that they can climb in, and you can see them kind of like an ant farm crawling through the rock crevices and stuff.
That,
It'd be super cool.
that would be cool.
They have something a
You know,
little
I
bit
have
like
to.
that at the Waikiki Aquarium. They have an Opae Ula exhibit with
Okay.
rock that's built to make it look kind of like it's an unkeeline pool. It looks super cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, and that I should mention that I did get these when I was in Hawaii, when I lived there. Back in,
Oh, okay.
I moved there in 2004, and I lived there for 3 years. And that's how I became interested in them before I got to Hawaii. And so by the time I got to Hawaii, I was already excited about seeing them and everything, and ended up finding a guy who had a pool on his property, an ankyline pool on his property.
Oh, wow. Did you
Ended up,
start digging your own at that point? Did you start digging it? Like, I'll get some shrimp.
well, he had a pool on his property, but he was on a different island than I was. And so
Okay.
he shipped some to me on the island I was on. He was on the big island and I was on Oahu. So there are some populations on Oahu, but I never actually, they're kind of rare there now.
Okay.
And so I didn't actually see any in the wild the whole time I was there, but I did get some while I was there. It's actually really pretty unfortunate because the ankyline pools are kind of a rare thing anyway. But the problem is people will have them on their property and they're like, oh, there's a pool and there's this little shrimp in it and I don't care. And I'm going to put koi in there or whatever. And the koi will eat up the shrimp and the shrimp will leave through the crevices in the ground, But the koi can handle the slightly brackish water and they do fine. And
oh, sure.
Or people will drop, well, there's a ton of invasive species in Hawaii, of course. One of them is the tilapia. There's a couple kinds of tilapia over there. And the tilapia will eat them too, and they'll breed in the brackish water. And because the tilapia species, at least one of them there, is a mouth brooder, you get herons and stuff that will pick up a fish and then fly to a pool and then drop it in while it's still alive, and then it'll release its 50 babies or whatever into the pool, and now that pool's contaminated. So it's almost impossible to keep them free of fish. And of course, people are dropping mollies and guppies and swordtails and all sorts of stuff in these ankyline pools. So Hawaii has made some efforts to control them, and there are some organic pesticides that they found will kill the fish but won't kill the shrimp. I think it's rotenone or something like that will do that, and so they'll kill the fish, and then as soon as the rotenone degrades, and it degrades quickly, then shrimp show up in the pools again. So they are trying to kind of reclaim the pools, but it's hard because a lot of them are on private property where people don't want to do it, or they're a hotel and the hotel's like, no, we want our koi sitting there, and everybody watch the koi when they come, and things like that. So it's tricky. It's a hard business, but fortunately, when I got into this 20 years ago, very few people were captive breeding these shrimp. Very, very few people. But since then, it's become extremely common to breed them, and so everybody's doing it, and so there's really no reason to go and collect them in the wild anymore.
I remember. Jedi Monkey asked if we could get. Are there any interesting color morphs? I see color diversity here. Like you've got an orange one dead center.
Yeah.
And then there was a bright yellow one that went through after I saw Justin's comment.
Yeah, those are the two most common colors that you see are the, besides red, of course. And you see various, there's a spectrum of red. You get some that are like blood red and stay dark all the time. You get some that change color depending on temperature and various stimuli, light, and whether they've been disturbed or not. They tend to pale out when they're disturbed or in the dark, things like that. But their orange ones are not too uncommon, yellow ones, and there are some people who are breeding isolated lines of the yellow ones and the orange ones. I think there are white ones too, that I think they're working on. And I've heard rumors about green ones, but I'm not sure about that.
No, I want to get on because you could isolate these in I have all these jars that I'm saving for when I do like white worms and black worms and all. I want to start breeding that stuff when I get the pea puffers. And I was thinking just now, like I could just like isolate into pasta jars. Like they could hold probably 30 and be just fine.
Yeah, you could. The main thing is just getting that cycling, like you were mentioning before. You make sure that the substrate and whatever else is going in the jar is cycled really well before you put the shrimp in, and you're golden.
I mean, I could just add substrate to the tank I have, let it go for a little while, and then, speed up the process a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
pull some water out of the tank that's already going, and boom.
That would jumpstart it for sure, and you'd save yourself a bunch of time. And we should talk about the snails too. Did I send you some snails?
You did. I have the 2. I don't know that they ever bred. I've had the 2. I've never seen any more.
That's a good sign. The thing that people are surprised about sometimes is that these snails, they're the same. They're Malaysian trumpet snails. They're exactly the same species as just the normal Malaysian trumpet snails that are considered plagues by a lot of people in freshwater tanks.
They sure are. Yes, in the freshwater tanks.
And these are the ones that I sent you and the ones that I have in my tank. If they had been put into a freshwater tank, there'd be hundreds by now, easily.
Yeah, but I still have 2. It's like a year later or something. Or
yeah, they breed extremely slowly in these setups, and I think it has to do with a lot with the nutrient levels. Compared to a freshwater tank, is typical. Your typical freshwater tank, I should say, is really eutrophic. It just has tons of nutrients compared to what is available in these Opae Ula tanks, because their bio load that they add to the tank is negligible, and you're not feeding them a whole lot. And so there's not a lot of extra food. So these snails grow extremely slowly, and they breed extremely slowly. They stay a lot smaller. Their shells stay darker. They look like a different snail, but they are the exact same ones. The ancestors of those that I have and the ones that I gave you just came from the PetSmart, and they were MTS. They were the Malaysian trumpet snails, came out of a freshwater tank. I acclimated them to salt water, and they began to breed, but none of their babies got anywhere near their size, stayed small, stayed dark, and breed really slowly. I have that 5.5 gallon tank I was telling you about. That one has been going for, well, I don't know, 6-7 years. And that's it's one of my newer ones. It is my newest one. It's been going for 6 or 7 years. And I put a few of those Malaysian trumpet snails in it. They were already acclimated to salt water when I put them in, or brackish water. I put 2 or 3 in there, and I've only seen 2 or 3 that whole time. I mean, they do not breed quickly in these setups if they're maintained correctly. If you dump a bunch of extra nutrients in, I'm sure that would accelerate their growth and their breeding. But with the low amounts of nutrients that they're supposed to go in a tank like this, it does not. They don't breed like crazy. The 10 gallon, the one that we were just showing a minute ago with all the shrimp on the ball of food, that one's been going for probably 10 years. And it has, moderate numbers of those snails, more than the 5.5, but they're all small and they don't overbreed. It's not an issue.
Wow. Am I broken up?
No, not from my end.
I'm trying to comment and it won't let me. It's like, check your internet. So I don't know.
Oh, weird.
There we go. Maybe.
But you seem fine.
It won't let me make a comment. So Sandy, I was applauding Sandy for remembering to like and reminding everyone else. Those comments will show up, I'm sure, in a couple minutes and make me look goofy. Okay, good.
I checked to see if there were anything about the green shrimp, and I'm only seeing people talking about shrimp looking green because they ate something. But as far as the orange and yellow and the white, those are there. Those exist.
What did you give yours? You had a little sinking pellet. What was that?
That was just, what do you call it? Omega-1 sinking cichlid pellets.
Okay, all right. I'd given mine. I kind of rotate between the crab pellets, the little, I think it's Hikari is the brand.
Like Crab Cuisine or something?
Yeah, I think so. They're little red, like lozenge shape, kind of real tiny.
Mm-hmm.
This one I gave them like a quarter or a third of a spirulina wafer.
Okay. Yeah, the spirulina is really good for them. I also like to give some of mine the Hematococcus algae. They do better and stay redder, and I'm sure you know this, but just for people who are listening, if you give them lots of carotenoids and astaxanthin-rich kinds of foods, so you can give them straight spirulina powder just right on the top. Just sprinkle pure spirulina powder on the top of the tank, and they'll come and stick themselves on the bottom of the tank and just scrape it off with their little setae on their claws and on their chelipeds, I guess I should say, or chelipeds. And Hematococcus algae is not like spirulina. Spirulina is little tiny. It's a powder, but it doesn't really dissolve in the water per se. Hematococcus like dissolves in the water, makes the water kind of orange. So you don't want to put a lot in, just a little bit. But they
Oh,
will
okay.
get that. They'll get it somehow, whether they're, I don't know exactly how they're getting it, but they get it, and they will take that into their bodies. And astaxanthin is amazing at helping them stay colored up, as is as are the carotenoids in spirulina. So if you give them some of both of those are awesome foods to help them stay red.
Okay, I'll have to check that out because that is here we go. Let's just keep flipping them back and forth. I can't get over yours. Look huge compared to mine, but I think it's just because they're all up on the glass.
They're right up in the glass. I have the camera tipped right up next to the glass. Tried to optimize, for visibility on these shrimp. So my camera's right up there against the glass. That's why.
I pulled mine away a little bit, and then obviously I have my little spirulina thing is off on the side. But what do you use for substrate? What do you have in your substrate there?
In this tank, I have aragonite sand, like the oolitic, lithic aragonite sand, just sold for use in marine aquaria. You do need a calcium source, and that's an easy way to do it. Just use aragonite. You don't
I used crushed coral.
And crushed coral is a great one too. That's a great calcium source. You need some sort of constant calcium source in the tank because they will not do well without it. But crushed coral is awesome. And I just mentioned the aragonite sand. Another good one you can use is, and I've done this in some of my other tanks. You get the African cichlid buffered substrate, and there are a few different companies that make it. Carib Sea is one that makes one, and I think there are other companies that make them. But you can choose the color. Like they have a black one, and so my tank that's on my desk at work, my 5.5 gallon is on my desk at work. I have the black Carib Sea buffered substrate, so it's full of calcium.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's mostly black. It has a few little flecks in it that aren't black, and the substrate basically lasts for the life of the tank. I noticed 503 was just asking about that. As long as you have enough of that substrate in there, it'll last for years. I haven't replaced the substrate in this tank for, like I said, this tank's been running for 10 years, maybe more, and it's fine. You don't have to replace it. It dissolves very slowly, but there's enough substrate there that it would take 100 years or more to run out of, calcium buffer.
So like the third generation, it would run.
Yeah, I don't even know how long. It might last longer than that, but it just lasts indefinitely, essentially. So you don't have to replace it.
Kids.
What was that?
When you will these to your kids, like we'll be able to find out, like they'll be able to do a study and see, like.
Yeah, this tank has now been going for 73 years, and we haven't had to replace the substrate yet. Yeah,
that's too funny.
People, I remember when I would talk to you about these guys and how easy they were, and it was hard to believe. It was hard to believe when I read it, and when I found out how easy they were to take care of, too. It's mind-boggling how easy they are.
I don't know how I saw them first because I don't remember because it was a while ago, but I think it had to be one of your videos. It had to be like a video you did on them.
Could be.
And I did not believe it. So I reached out to you basically immediately after I watched the video. And I remember that part for sure. And being like, what's the deal? What is the deal with these? And you told me straight up. And I was like, no way. I remember putting my phone down and going to my computer like, we're going to research the crap out of this. So you sent me to Super Shrimp, I think?
Yeah.
Supershrimp.com. And then they have them, guys. They have everything you need. So that's a one-stop shop if you want to get these guys. Or Rus Aquarimax Pets, maybe. I don't know.
I do sell them.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and you can see there's great stock here. But yeah, I checked 3 sources because like somebody's lying. Somebody's just trying to sell shrimp. And obviously you weren't, you just sent me some. So that was really nice. Like guys, honest to God, there's no like temperature parameters. They can go from like, 40 degrees to over 100 or something. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And I would be careful in the warmer temperatures, but definitely they can go down to where it's very cold. The Mustafa who runs supershrimp.com, so he keeps them outside because he lives in Southern California. And he says he's checked the temperatures, and at least some of them he keeps outside. He's got tons of tanks. And he said he will read the temperature at 39 degrees in the water, not just the air temperature, the water temperature is 39 degrees, and they're breeding and they're fine.
They don't.
And I would say I would hesitate to keep them warmer than 80 degrees for a long time. But when we lived in Hawaii and we had the shrimp, we had a plumbing incident where
Okay.
our lower floor of the house was flooded, and
Oh,
we were
wow.
renting.
Okay.
So the company sent over people, the restoration people, to drain it, clean it all up, and dehumidify, which you have to do in Hawaii quick if you don't want your house to turn into a big pile of black mold. And so they came over and stuck dehumidifier in the house and stuck it in the walls, and piped all the water out of the walls and everything. The house was at
Wow.
98 degrees inside.
Oof.
And the shrimp were fine. It was like that for a week. And the shrimp were fine at 98 degrees. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that for a long time, but they all survived it just fine.
I mean, who wants to live in that? So Grumpy Moose is asking if they breed fast enough to make a decent feeder. I would
These
say
are
no.
extremely slow breeding shrimp. They're nothing like Neocaridina, like the cherry shrimp genus, all the different colors.
Yeah.
It's all Neocaridina. They don't breed anywhere near that fast.
Their metabolism is so low. That's what keeps them so easy to keep, that you don't have to worry about the water that much. Like, the water quality doesn't change. The parameters don't really change that much.
Right.
I've never noticed a significant change doing water tests on it. And it's funny, I bought a test kit just for this tank because it's really the only. That's not true. I have four fish tanks going. But I didn't even get a test kit for my newts. I just have a regular thing for them. But I got a test kit for this because I was nuts. I do want a salinity kit. I need to do that, the little salinity tester.
Yeah, maybe a refractometer or something for that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I know that people in Hawaii who had access to these pools on their property, and I won't mention any names, but there were companies who would go and collect these out of the pools and sell them as seahorse food. Because they're really nutritious. They're high in highly unsaturated fatty acids. So they're extremely nutritious shrimp, and seahorses go nuts over them. But it's not really sustainable because you can't breed. I don't know how many hundreds of gallons, thousands of gallons you'd need to have to breed enough of these shrimp to actually have a sustainable production of them. So
you would just, the amount you'd have to pull out of the wild to start your colony to feed for that, it would like decimate a population at least.
Yeah, they're just really slow breeders, and so they're not excellent for a feeder. I don't think they'd be great for anything in terms of being able to be a sustainable source. As far as nutrition, sure.
Yeah.
But not a sustainable
like maybe a treat here and there.
Yeah.
Are they dragging that one? Did
They
any of you
do.
guys see the two shrimp dragging the other shrimp across the tank?
They're probably fighting over a piece of food. I've seen them. I have a video that has
there they
they're doing it again. They're fighting over the piece of food.
Well, these guys were, I only noticed it because these guys went from right to left. Like they went to the food, dragging this little guy. It was really funny. And I was like, is that just a dead one that they're eating? But I've never seen a dead one.
Yeah, it's not very common to find them. I'm sure they finish them off quickly when it does happen. But as long as the tank is set up nicely, you're not going to see a lot of dead ones because they live for so long. And they tend to slow down once they reach a population density that's high enough. They'll just kind of slow down breeding. But I looked in this tank and did a quick count when I was in that room. I'm not in the room with the shrimp right now, but when I was in there were at least 25 babies floating around in there.
Wow.
Something like that, like planktonic stage babies, around 25, somewhere in there. And that's not uncommon, and they just keep going.
I think I'm weird because I like that planktonic stage. Like I can't zoom in far enough on my little, I have a crap phone, so I can't zoom in far enough to see what they look like at that stage, like with a macro. But because the way mine's set up, the light's too far away, at least in the center of the tank, basically. So that's where they are. But
I should try to do some close-ups of that because my phone has a really good zoom lens on it. I should try it out.
I should try because I want to see the structures, and I haven't seen any good pictures online. I want to see like what the shape is, what they look like. Because they just look like their head is pointed straight up, and there's this little. It looks like a bobber. It almost looks like a tiny fishing bobber.
It does, and their head. I've taken some pretty close macro video of them before. Their head is actually down.
Okay.
Their head is aiming down, and you can see around their head. You can see these little fluttering appendages. Which will become their legs, but aren't really legs yet. They use them for kind of swimming around. And those are right near their head, and then their tail goes straight up.
Do you know offhand like how many molts it takes them to get to like a tiny shrimp instead of a larva thing?
I believe it's just one.
Okay, so it's just their first stage, like a manka. It's like a
Yeah,
manka. They get their extra. Yeah. Okay.
right. I believe it's just one. It's typically, I noticed that it's about 2 weeks after they show up in the water, the female releases them. About 2 weeks after that, they just molt out and switch over.
Yeah. What is an ulm? These guys are
An
talking
ulm
about ulms.
is a neotenic salamander, kind of like an axolotl,
Okay.
but it's even more. It's like a troglodytic salamander from Europe, I believe, and
Okay.
so they're a very long, thin, cave dwelling axolotl that has like either vestigial eyes or it's blind, and I think its back legs are also either vestigial or non-existent, and it just has front legs or something like that. I don't remember exactly all the details, but that's basically what it is.
I think they have these at Brookfield Zoo now. They
Oh,
have
that would be cool.
like a blind cave newt or salamander, I think they're calling it, but it's fully aquatic.
And it has the external gills like an axolotl.
Yeah, but they're like
Yeah.
a lot smaller. They don't look like the big. I feel like axolotls show off like they're about to do a show in Vegas. You know, like that situation.
Yeah.
Russ, when's the last time you cracked open a refreshing Sprecher?
I have never even seen that brand here, so it's way too long. Way too long.
Let me tell you, friend, I'm still I'm trying to contact people to get some I don't know what the word is now, sponsorship.
They should give you a
So
sponsorship.
nice.
They should. Every time you drink that, I'm like, oh, I need me some of that.
Yeah, all I need is them to send me root beer. I don't even want money. So it'd be a real sweet deal for them.
Yeah.
There's so many random amphibians. There are.
And there are so many that are neotenic salamanders, like ulms, like axolotls. There are so many that do that, and with various stages of vestigial limbs and whatnot.
So wild. I can't get over these guys. I don't know what I would do if I had like a weird pool in my backyard and looked in it and this is what was in there. I
Yeah.
don't know how I would react because I've had a weird pool in my yard because the guy who owned this house before us, he had to move the eject for the sump pump. It was like too close to the house, so he had to move it like 5 feet out. So he did exactly that, and he made a thing that the downspout to it or whatever it was straight up. So every hour or so we would get this 3 foot. It was like so there was a swamp. It was like a 10-foot area that was just a swamp, and that water was just going back into right back into my sump, basically, even that far away.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but we had that swamp, and now I have a buried rain barrel. Basically, I buried it, and that's where it goes farther into the yard. Is where we're gonna put a garden.
Oh, that's good.
The grass there's like insanely high all the time. So we're going to talk to Joe. We're going to get your brother on to talk to Joe about native plants to start. I'm going to transform my garden or my yard into native plants and clover and all of that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll probably have some good advice about ones to attract native bees.
Perfect. I mean, there's at least 8 species I've seen here.
Cool.
That aren't bumbles. They're the little guys. So
Yeah,
we
like
have those
solitary bees.
metallics.
Oh yeah, the mason
Ones here.
blue metallic mason bees. Yeah.
Super cool. So small. I didn't know what it was. They landed on me, and that's how I found them.
Cool.
So I was hoping it was some kind of a queen ant.
A metallic blue. Yeah.
How cool would
Bring
that
it on.
be?
Bring it on.
Yeah, I can't get over these guys. The simplicity. You can sit and watch this tank. I mean, we're gonna sit and watch these tanks for an hour and a half. This is more activity than normal, but not really. Like I feel like mine are always doing something.
That's the thing. They never seem to go through like a period of the day when they're not active. You can always look at the tank, and
this is not ordinary, probably.
Right, because they're finding that food, and there's a feeding frenzy going on. But there's always activity in the tank, like 100% of the time, 24/7. You go in the middle of the night and look in there with a flashlight, and they'll be doing their thing all the time.
Right.
And like at work, it's funny sometimes when there's certain stimuli that I haven't put my finger on. Obviously, when you put food in, activity goes up. When you pour fresh water in to top off, you use, distilled water, you add to it to top off, because you'd never have to do water changes. We should bring that out. This tank has not had a water change on it since I set it up 10 years ago.
Yeah, mine has never. I've just topped off the water.
I just
mentioned like taking some water out to cycle a new tank. That was it, to like speed boost a new tank.
And I've done that, of course, because when I take shrimp out, I'm taking some of the water out, and I do have to replenish that. But it's not the purpose is not to change the water. The purpose is to remove some shrimp, and they need something to be in. They need a medium to be exported in. So that's the only reason I do it.
Right.
So I do that, but it's not enough. It's to really constitute a major water change. At any rate, I guess I kind of lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something. The feeding frenzy at work. Sometimes when I add water, they'll kind of go nuts. But sometimes I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, they just go nuts for no apparent reason. I haven't added anything to the tank, haven't taken anything away. And all of a sudden, you'll see like 200 shrimp just zipping all around the tank. And I don't know why. It's weird.
You never know. Like, what triggers them? Is it a barometer thing? Is there a tornado coming? Do you guys get tornadoes in the Utah?
Not very often. So I think twice in my lifetime that I recall, that in the years that I've lived here, at least. So
before I forget, I want to highlight again what a unique guy you are, Russ. You chose to move from Hawaii to Utah. Like, there are some pretty places. Like, you post a lot of cool pictures or share them with me of like where you and your wife go hiking, or you and your family. And there's some beautiful areas, but dude, Hawaii, come on, man.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, when we lived there, though, I think part of the problem, there were a lot of things going on. One is that it's expensive, super expensive to live there.
That's true.
Crazy. That's true. And honestly, one of the biggest issues was the bugs, which there's some super cool bugs there. But my wife was really sick of giant roaches and things like that, because there, it is tropical. And so more roaches can actually be a pest in your house because it's warm and humid enough for them to actually live there. And there are many, many species of roaches there, and a lot of them will get into your house. And she was sick of it, really sick of it. There's nothing you can do about it. We trapped them and things like that, but you can't eliminate them there. And she was tired of it. So I can understand that. When they asked me, they said, I had a 3-year contract, and it was a non-renewable 3-year contract. Near the end of that contract, boss called me in and said, hey, Russ, do you want to stay longer? Because we'd be happy to switch you over to a renewable contract if you're into that, if you would like to do that. And so I went home and asked my wife, what do you think about that? And she said, no, let's go. Let's leave. I'm done. So we did. And that's totally fair. I get it.
And I imagine, I don't know. That would be hard.
It was beautiful there. Absolutely beautiful. It was lovely. I had a 5-minute walk. That was my commute to work. 5-minute walk to my office from my house. And well, it was a little dinky apartment. It wasn't a house, but anyway, on that walk, I would encounter the cane toads. I would encounter anoles. I would encounter all sorts of beautiful birds. Reptiles, amphibians, unusual insects, and arthropods, all kinds of birds. It was just amazing. We'd go outside. We go on walks all the time and just see everything. And then the ocean was so close, and we would go snorkeling. I have a field guide. I still have it, just full of little sticky notes. This is where I saw this fish on this day, and you can just thumb through it. And there were so many. I'd do the first 2 or 3 sightings, and then I'd say, okay, I'm going to move on and just leave that sticky note there. But I saw hundreds of all these beautiful fish, and it was just that close. It was amazing.
That is just awesome. Just be able to step out your door, and probably in the property that you're on, probably there's things you probably didn't even see the whole time you were there.
Yeah. And there were geckos that would come in the house. We had morning geckos that would come in the house and lay eggs in the corners in the ceiling and then hatch in the house. And that was awesome. That not only did they keep down the mosquitoes and stuff, but they're just beautiful to see. And that's why I fell in love with morning geckos, because they would come into our house all the time. And right on the lawn, right outside the apartment, there were the cane toads would come out and sit under the lamps and catch all the bugs as they came by. And we
Now, are
had,
they're not native there either, are
they're not
they?
native there. They were introduced
Okay.
at like the beginning of the 1900s to control cane
Yeah,
beetles, and
of
they
course.
did a decent job with that. But there are the cane spiders, the big Heteropoda venatoria, the big, what else do they call them? We call them cane spiders in Hawaii, but huntsman spiders. They have those.
Okay.
They have a large Scolopendra species, which would not be your favorite. The centipedes, the big, huge centipedes. We'd see the
You
big,
said Scolopendra and my skin crawled. My skin was like,
yeah, yeah. And I don't remember if it's alternans or which species it might be alternans, but they have a large Scolopendra species there, and we'd see the egrets like pulling them out of the grass,
oh, wow.
gulping them down. They have the giant African land snails that are illegal in the U.S. But
Oh, yeah.
they're all over the place, like as big as your shoe. Holy cow!
I feel like in Hawaii, in a small spot like that, they could do a lot of damage. Like,
and they do.
They try to eradicate them in Florida, and they said they did it again, but they'll be back. Like, there's eggs out there that no one caught, and there's somebody's going to release them again, and they're in some hillbilly's basement that's going to get flooded or whatever.
Right.
It's not good. Somebody asked about if they thought making a man-made stalactite to be the calcium drip for the tank. I don't even know how to, Guy Bob. That's a great question. I don't even know.
That's a cool question. I'm trying to think about that because man-made stalactite to be a calcium drip for the tank.
How would you?
That would be a very interesting idea. But if you made it out of like calcium carbonate, which you can do, you can get the food grade, calcium carbonate, and basically you put it in a mold with water and solidify it, and then you'd have to set up a way to drip it slowly enough. But technically, I think you could do that. That'd be a really interesting project.
My gears aren't turning on that. Heather caught me with my gears turning. She could see me looking off when you were talking about the tunnels. Like, oh, can I make cracks and crevices in a thin tank? Like, I just saw somebody posted on. I belong to some groups on Facebook where the people are they're so dumb and you can't help them. Like, you try to put in like, oh, here's what I would do. And some other dummy comes on and argues with you, and it drives me insane. So I had to stop. But anyway, this guy found a tank. I don't know how it's like 6 feet tall, and it's like a foot square for the depth and width. And what can I put in this? And I was like, nothing. Like you could put an air tube in there, like an air bubbler. That's about it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you could do. I guess Opae Ula wouldn't be a bad choice if you're going to put something living in there.
Yeah, if you just build lava rock up the middle, like a big, whatever, just fill it with lava rock. Just let it go nuts and eat the big chunks.
Yeah, for like 3 feet, and then just have water column in the top 3 feet, and that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. You'd watch them be able to get into the cracks and the nooks and crannies and stuff too. So that
would exactly. Yeah, it would be cool to see both, and I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. I wonder what a tank like that would cost. My problem would be like worrying about somebody tipping it over.
Yeah, and that is very much a valid concern. Yeah, and I've seen those for sale, like in places like in magazines or whatever. And like, what do you think you're going to keep in there? Seriously. Opae wouldn't be a bad choice if you're going to keep something, but I can think of very few other things, maybe some snails that you would want to put in a tank like that. Yeah.
A lot of people were saying like live plants, like if you did like Valsnaria or something, just to see
how
far it would grow.
Some insane lights at the top. Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah. Like how do you get it rooted though? Like what do you use?
Yeah. You just wait the roots and just drop it and let it plop down and root itself.
Yeah, or just like a long bamboo pole, just it seemed pretty crazy to me, but Opae in there would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my gears are turning. Now I got to find out how to get one of those for free. Just start filling it. My wife be like, "Why do you have that in our unfinished basement? It's gorgeous, and there's no reason." A lot of pet-related enclosures are sold by manufacturers, betting on people's ignorance. Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You only have to go to a big box pet store to notice that. It's very, very true. Good point.
Yeah. Somebody posted up, I guess ZoomEd made, it looks like those, those shaped weekend feeders for your fish tank.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see
and they're for isopods?
Yeah. It's like a little 3-pack. I want to see the ingredients list. I asked for the person to post the ingredients list so that I could see. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure they would love it, but
Yeah.
you're probably spending $10 on that 3-pack, and
it's probably just food grade calcium carbonate and fish food pellets. I bet that's
literally that's probably all it is. Yeah, you can do it 100 times better and 100 times cheaper. So
and maybe something to keep it from crumbling too much, like a binder, like some wheat flour, something to keep it from crumbling too much while it's shipping. But yeah, that's probably what it is essentially.
Which, for isopods, you could literally use anything. You could use like small amounts of plaster to keep it from crumbling. They'd be fine. I don't recommend that. We don't facilitate feeding your isopods plaster, folks. We don't, not on isopodies.
Although some plaster Paris formulations apparently are just fine for them. I'm doing some research on that to figure it out, because I know this is a tangent, but like 10 years ago or so, when I was getting into isopods, they had I was reading some academic papers about these people keeping isopods in labs and how they put plaster of Paris, a layer of thin, they get cured the plaster of Paris in a block on the bottom of the enclosure. So it's just like half an inch of plaster of Paris or whatever that they kept moist, and then just put leaf litter on top of it. And the isopods ate the leaves and turned the leaves into frass, and that became the substrate over the plaster of Paris. And that's just what they did. And it lasted for the whole duration of the experiment. And Kyle of Roach Crossing was talking about that recently, how he's been using that because not for his like breeding enclosures, but for display. When people wants to show them, like at an expo or something, he does that. And it seems like an excellent way to do it. I just want to make sure I get the right formula of plaster of Paris, because there are so many formulas of plaster of Paris, and you get the wrong combination, you could cause a problem. But the right ones are actually good for the isopods. They can get their calcium from it and so on.
That's so funny. I know that they ate. I put a little gnome somebody made me, Pelly McGinnis, paintings by Pelly. She's awesome. She made me a little gnome out of Sculpey, the polymer clay, and they ate the feed off of it. Like they ate a ring around, and I was like, well, it's not the ants in here that did this. This is definitely the isopods.
Isopods,
yeah. Yeah, and I was like, what else do you want from me? I've given you food. I give you everything, and you eat the feed off my gnome. So, yeah, that was not my favorite thing. They also sell 4 packs of pre-mixed cups of Crested Gecko diet. Ugh, who needs that? 4 servings for $5. Zoom
wow.
Zoom has some good stuff, but
that's pricey. Ridiculously pricey, yeah.
For Crested Gecko diet, when you can.
I guess some people want to pay for the convenience, so they don't even have to mix it up. I guess I don't know.
But it's like so much trash, and so you would think a pet company would be more cognizant, but I guess not. If McDonald's now has biodegradable containers for their Happy Meal toys, yeah, the little cardboard. They use cardboard now, not the plastic bags. So
that's good.
And it's got some little thing on there about how it's like more eco-friendly than regular paper, which everybody's trying to take advantage of that, but who knows if it actually is. But I bet your isopods would eat that too.
Yeah, that's true.
Or your Opae. I was going to say, I forgot about this. This is an Opae thing that I tried to think about earlier. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, I don't even know when this was. It had to be at least 20 years ago. They had these little glass. It looked like clear glass Christmas ornaments, basically. But it wasn't that. It was just like different shapes or little cubes that had a little bit of gravel, like a little bit of crushed coral, like 5 pieces, a little bit of algae, and a little shrimp in there. Yep. I'm going to promise it was these guys.
It was.
But it was like a self-sustaining thing. Like the algae was supposed to provide oxygen and food, and the shrimp provided waste for the algae, and et cetera, et cetera.
And they did market them as like self-sustaining. And really, they weren't so much self-sustaining as that these shrimp are like bulletproof. And so you put them in there, and what little oxygen the algae produced was enough for them to live in there for years, sealed up, and so on. So it was these shrimp, and they did survive fairly well in those if you didn't expose them to extremes of temperature or whatever. But it was hardly ideal for the shrimp. They would rarely breed in those setups, and often they would only have 1 to 3 or something like that. Some of my shrimp are descended from a couple of those, because I was at the mall in Hawaii and saw, I got the original stock was from the guy on the other island. He was on the big island, but I just saw some in Walmart in those little things, and they were like $7. And so I picked up a couple of those and released the shrimp into my bigger tank, along with my other ones. So yeah, a few of my shrimp are descended from those, or maybe many of them by now.
Wow. Or they might be them. They might be them, Russ.
That's true. Some of them might still be there. Yeah.
Good old Jim, still swimming around in that tank.
20 years later.
Jim's a great shrimp name. I got to see who's going to live longer, Sheila or the Opae Ula.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to say the Opae Ula. That's my guess. I'm going to put my money on that, because the Sheila is, you have a queen, and unless she produces other generations, that's it. Her lifespan is it. These could go theoretically forever.
Well, the Camponotus discolor queen can live up to 30 years. So
that's still a pretty long time. But even when your shrimp age out and are no longer breeding, their descendants will still be breeding. So,
well, that's true. The colony will live longer.
Yeah, individuals maybe not, but colony, yeah.
I'll have to put an individual in a mayonnaise jar and see what we get. Because I know for sure the originals obviously are still in there. The 60 gave me. It's been like a year. I'm shocked by how crystal clear the water stays. Like, this is because the glass is dirty. This like fogginess.
Right.
The water stays so
super clear. And it looks a little bit fuzzy in there, but that's mostly just the focus is not perfect on mine.
Yeah.
The water's clear. It stays clear, and you don't need to change it. It's awesome. I scraped the algae off of the glass yesterday so it would have time to settle, and I kicked up some sand and stuff when I did that, but now it just settled back down really quickly.
Now your algae in here. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, to go back to the ecosphere idea that people were selling those things that were totally sealed off, shrimp sometimes would actually shed their skin when they would molt. They would be smaller than before they molted, because they were so low in nutrients in there that they weren't growing, they were shrinking, which is kind of horrible. But there was a guy, a researcher at the University of Hawaii, I believe it was, who collected like 4 to 6 shrimp that he found in a pool, just one of these ankyline pools that was going to get destroyed or whatever, and he scooped up I think it was 6 of them, put them in a gallon jar with some not seawater, but the water he collected from the pool, and a couple of pieces of coral and whatnot he collected from the pool. He put a glass dish right on top of the gallon jar to reduce evaporation. Okay. He put it in a window where it just got some indirect light, not direct sunlight or anything, but indirect light. 25 years later, there were 50 shrimp in there. He had never even opened it.
It's just so wild what these guys can do. It's like they mostly eat the biofilm on everything. So that's kind of what I can't get over the Royal Rumble of you. I'm enthralled with watching your shrimp. You can't tell that that's what I'm staring at, but I'm absolutely staring at these shrimp because it is a free-for-all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to watch it. Never gets old.
Mine are just then you got my peaceful, serene, pass the mustard.
Pardon me, would you have any gray poupon?
Yeah, they're still not even swarming. You can tell there's a congregation there, but they're still.
Yeah.
So
well,
funny.
It's partly just the age of your colony too, because how long ago did you start this one?
I want to say a year, but that's a guess. It was. I want to say it was a little before last winter, so probably about a year. Yeah.
About a year. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you started out with a fairly small number.
I want to say you sent me 6.
And I don't remember. I feel like I should slap myself if I only sent you 6.
We were talking about 6 counts before the show, guys. Yeah. Russ is on board. 6 counts sucks.
I feel like I never. 6 counts sucks. At least I would. I hope I sent you more than 6, but I usually send at least 15, because that's usually it's usually a really good number to get a colony started.
It might have been that. I'm having a memory of wanting to order 6 from Super Shrimp.
Huh?
Because that was the price that I wanted to order 6 from Super Shrimp. That's what I was going to go for. And then I think you and I talked. Yeah, that probably was it.
That's probably what's it. And then I sent you the algae and the snails first, and then the shrimp later, right?
Yeah, to help it cycle. because I had the water in the tank already. It was a great deal. I got the tank for it's one of those rimless glass tanks.
Oh yeah, those
So
are
it's
sweet.
literally just a cube. And it's got a cool glass lid that's on these little plastic feet, and it's awesome. So there's very little evaporation out of this tank either. I maybe refill it once every 2 months.
Yeah.
And it's like a quart. It's like nothing. I just refill it because the salt line at the edge looks like crap. But so that was like $20 because it was half off at, that's one good thing about the big box stores when they have those half off sales.
Oh yeah.
This guy is just dragging a streamer of poop through my screen. He keeps doing it. I'm like, go lay down. Go somewhere.
I did remember seeing that. Yeah.
I've never seen that on these guys before. And today is the day he's
Really?
dragging the streamer.
They just waited until they were on YouTube. They wanted to make sure.
Yeah. It's probably one of those little banners like they have on the back of planes. It's like, need more spirulina. There we go. There's the Royal Rumble. That's more entertaining. If there is a poop stream in this one, you can't see it.
Yeah, it's blending into the algae, I guess.
But yeah, I wish that the algae grew more, and because I want that jungle effect in the rock. But you can't really see it. But I have a lot of little streamers that are in the coral.
Yeah, and they will eventually get there. That algae grows super slowly, which is great because you don't have to worry about it overtaking the tank. But it takes years for it to really go. I noticed when. Oh, go ahead.
I want to find a way to boost it without screwing up the balance of the bio load in the tank because I don't want to put anything at risk. I feel like there's enough stuff in there to process. There's a lot of algae on the glass. There's a lot of algae in the coral itself, in the crushed coral. So I feel like it would be okay. Do you think I have some of that that little spidery driftwood, little pieces of that? Do you think that would be okay in there or no?
Good question. It depends. Is it spiderwood specifically?
It is not spiderwood. I don't know if it's spiderwood specifically. It's just that it's like really small,
like
thin
branches, like curly wool or something. I think some of
Probably
the wood would probably rot in there and change the pH potentially. Could be a risk. Yeah.
I thought about it. I almost just plopped it in there today. Like, they're Opae. They'll be fine. But if that's
and they probably survive it. It'd be great for the water chemistry.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with it. It seems to be pretty well balanced. So
yeah, but if you ever want more algae, I'll send you some. I have loads.
All right, I'm going to take you up on that after this freeze.
Yeah.
After this freeze.
Yeah,
My entire neighborhood looks like a glazed donut right now because it's just like it snowed and then it rained and then all of that froze.
Oh, you got yeah. That's the worst when it happens that way.
It's awful. And like school, when they do a snow day now, it's remote learning. It's not a snow day. Like they don't get a day off.
Right. I'm kind of sad about that, to be honest. It's snow days don't actually exist anymore. They're just remote days.
What is this? Opae Ula Predator. I just read about these guys. I
remember reading about those. And apparently they do. My understanding is that they do prey on Opae Ula. Yeah. I don't know a lot about them, but I remember reading about those when I lived there and how the shrimp have larger chelipeds. They look more predatory than Opae Ula, and apparently they share habitat with them in certain areas, and they will eat them.
Are there other plants that you could keep in brackish? I don't know of any other real.
There aren't very many in this level of brackish water. In lower levels of brackish water, there are quite a few you can grow. But with Opae Ula being at 50% marine salinity, approximately, you can grow a few kinds of algae. I have two of them. You can see here in the tank, one on the right side. Does it look like the right side to everybody, hopefully, with a darker algae? And then on the left side, because I can never tell if it's mirrored or not. And on the left side, there's like the lighter, paler, hairier, like straighter pieces of algae. There's two different types in here. Those both do well. They both grow slowly. And I highly recommend anybody who's setting up an Opae Ula tank, you put algae in first before you put the Opae Ula in. It helps cycle things, just like I recommend putting the brackish acclimated Malaysian trumpet snails in there. Those two will do great. There's an algae ball that Super Shrimp sells they're super cool. They look like those algae balls that you can buy from the it was cladophora, but they changed the scientific name. I think, or corrected the scientific name. It's not cladophora anymore. But they're those marimo algae balls.
Okay.
Those, those grow in very slightly brackish water. They can, but the ones that I'm talking are like mini moss balls is what they call them on super shrimp. They're different species altogether, and they will grow really well for some people in some conditions in this salinity with Opae Ula. Mustafa, the guy who runs supershrimp.com, has tanks that are just like fully carpeted with these balls. They look really cool. And it's not just one layer. It's like 3 layers thick of these moss balls that grow, and they look super cool. I have purchased 2 of them over the years of these moss balls. And what happens, I've never had them thrive for me. I've had them produce little baby ones and the little baby balls that will sit there for years and years and years and never do anything. I seriously the last time I bought one was probably 10 years ago. And I don't have anything to show for it. I think under certain conditions they thrive, and under other conditions they don't. For whatever reason, the way I keep my Opae Ula, obviously these other types of algae do well. The moss balls do not do well. So there really isn't much you can keep plant-wise with Opae Ula. There just isn't.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in any other like sellers or the keepers or videos that I've seen.
Right.
Anything, but I didn't even see this. I got excited when I saw this hair-looking algae because I was like, "What's that?"
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I'll send you some of that too if you want it.
Okay.
And they have, as far as other creatures you can keep with Opae Ula, there aren't many. The Malaysian trumpet snails work well. In one of my tanks, my 2-gallon tank, interestingly enough, I have an olive nerite that has been in that tank for a very long time, probably more than 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, that sounds weird, I know, but I've had that tank forever, and I'm trying to even remember how long. I've worked where I work now, well, the same company, for 15 years, and I've had that tank pretty much that whole time. And I think that nerite has been there that whole time. 15 years, and it is still doing well in with the Opae Ula.
I remember you saying you could get a nerite snail, but then you said something about like cycling it from fresh to after, like, cycle it in and out of fresh and brackish because it wouldn't do well.
Oh, with breeding.
Breeding. Okay.
Is it breeding that I'm thinking of? Oh, breeding. Nerites have to breed in saltier water, and they can survive. The olive nerites can survive in fresh, but they can't breed in. They have to breed in the salty water. Maybe that's what I was talking about. But this snail, I've moved it from tank to tank occasionally, but I've had it for that long, and it does well with the Opae Ula, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I definitely wouldn't cycle it with one because they need enough algae to do well. And I have it in a place where it gets lots of indirect light and grows enough algae that it does okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I would think that's, especially if something happened to that snail, that would crash that whole tank, wouldn't it? Like they're...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it could. It could. So you have to be really careful, but it's done extremely well for a long time, but it's not necessarily something we work all the time. The Malaysian trumpet snails are definitely safer.
Too much. Yeah, they're super small. The 2 that I have, I see them occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw one of them the other day, but I kept thinking that one was dead because the shell was just floating at the top for days, and I went to take it out, and he was still in there. So I said, okay, you just wanted to float, I guess. Here you go.
Yeah, that's really a good sign, though. If you've had that tank for a year and those snails are staying small and not breeding, then that is just showing that you have an oligotrophic environment, which is what you want. You just have very few excess nutrients in that tank, which is good.
That's really good in this case because it could just go crazy. And then, you're juicing up all your ammonia and nitrates and all that mess, and got to get that balance. Exactly.
And with something like, I only feed my shrimp. How often do you feed your shrimp?
Oh, God. I don't think I haven't given them anything in about 2 weeks, maybe 3. Once in a while, I started to feed them a little bit more because I got one of those parthenogenic crayfish.
Oh yeah.
So I feed that. It's right next to them. So I feed that tank like every other day. And then this one, so I'll be there and kind of forget, like, oh, I fed them, but it's like a little sliver of a spirulina cake, like one of those little tiny capsules of the crab cuisine crushed in half, and it's negligible, but I'm there. So I'm like, oh, and I can never see the crayfish. She's always hiding. So always hiding. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's like,
yeah, you really don't want to feed them too much. It sounds like you're right on track. A lot of people overfeed these when they first get them because they imagine, oh, they're like neocaridina and they need to eat more and whatever. But yeah, you can feed the tank even less often than that if you want to, and it's fine. The tank that I had at work when COVID shut everything down.
I
wasn't supposed to go into my office very often, and I wasn't, working from there. I was working remotely most of the time. So in a period of 5 months, I was there twice. And I fed my shrimp twice when I was there and topped off the water those times when I was there. And they were fine when I came back. I mean, like totally fine. They had only eaten twice in 5 months.
Yeah, when you first gave them to me, I was like, my brain said they're probably in great condition. They're fed, they're doing well. I didn't do anything for a month. I put them in and I didn't feed them anything for a month. Partly because I wanted to see, but they showed no difference in activity, no difference in anything. So then I fed them, and of course they swarmed it.
Yeah.
And I think immediately after that is when I first saw babies. But yeah, it was great.
That's absolutely the best thing you could have done is let them go without feeding them for at least a month. That's awesome. And you can go longer. Generally when you first set up the tank, because there's enough biofilm and everything in there that can even go longer, but that's awesome.
So, I remember you asking me if you were are you ready? Are you ready? No, I just kept letting the tank cycle. It's like, this has to be perfect because this is all they're going to get ever. So it has to be right on point. So that's the first time I've hardly ever put something off to have it done right. Like, I'm the guy that sets up an aquarium and goes and buy fish like the next day. Like, I'm that guy. And I'm the guy that's never had a problem doing that either.
Yeah.
So I'm not the guy to ask how to do your aquarium because I just do it. Oh, hey, 13, how you doing? Yeah, everybody misses. I don't know why YouTube doesn't give notifications to my viewers at all. Everyone. I was in a Facebook conversation right before the show, and I was like, okay, I'm going on live. And the people were like, oh, we'll see you there. Okay, I guess. Thank God you told us. So set it on your phone. If you guys are going to watch this show, just set the alarm on your phone.
That's the way to do it. That's
what I do.
Me too. I had an alarm go off to make sure I wasn't going to be late like that one time.
See, I totally was late to my own show. Like, I think a couple weeks after that, I totally forgot. And somebody texted me like, hey, are you coming? And I ran downstairs. They were literally running the show from the comments section. It was Tennyson Kingsley. Great kid.
Yeah.
He's a great young man.
Definitely.
But yeah, I just can't recommend these guys enough. Like, they would make a great desktop. I have a new desk here, and now I want to put a jar or something on the desk, like something real small from Michael's or whatever. Like a hurricane lamp type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
That would look really pretty. It would be nice. And it would just be something to look at, Oh, yeah, Menagerie forgot. And her boyfriend said, he reminded her he doesn't watch the show. You guys could also tell your significant others that you're watching the show every Tuesday, and they'll let you know.
Yeah.
They'll try to get rid of you for an hour and a half. Like,
well, I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was done. I was just calling myself an idiot. We're good.
When you're talking about what kind of container to put on, like your desk, the oldest setup that I have for my Opae Ula is an IKEA vase, a 3-gallon IKEA vase.
Okay.
And it's pretty tall. It's probably, I don't know, like 2 feet tall and fairly narrow, but it kind of becomes a little bit wider as it comes up to the top. It's like really thick glass, like maybe 3/4 of an inch thick.
Okay.
And
cool.
I saw that at IKEA and just said, that would be so cool for Opae Ula. And this was years and years ago, of course. Probably, I don't know, we're talking 12, 13, 14 years ago. I don't know, something like that. And So I set them up in there, and they do absolutely fantastic. It looks really cool because it's nice and tall. And when they're in something round, they'll do these laps around the round aquarium.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to see. Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then I found the best way to reduce the evaporation. I went to the secondhand store and got a pie plate that fits right on top of the base, like perfectly, and reduces the evaporation. And it's upside down, so it doesn't look like I have a pie plate sitting on top of it. It looks like it has a lid. But it has just enough, a gap around the edges so oxygen gets in just fine, and it's perfect. I just take it off when I'm going to top off water or drop in food.
I mean, there is so much that you could do. Like, there's so much you could do for these guys to set up. You guys know that that's near and dear to my heart, setting up crazy shenanigan setups for things. My wife still hates that I have the canopy that ants just walk across near the ceiling. She hates it from tank to tank.
But it is so cool. It is so cool.
It's the coolest thing ever. And she, oh my gosh, well, rightfully so. That's one of the escape points that I had last year, where they figured out how to climb up the fishing line and get around the barriers that I had. But so far this year, no, they must be happy because they don't even try. But I think this would be a really cool thing. I could even have one of these. You could put them everywhere. You could put them all over your house.
Yeah.
So I could have one upstairs too. That's something that I think I'd get away with having upstairs in the family room.
Yeah, because you can make it look really cool, and it's not something you have to worry about doing maintenance on very often.
Right. Like I wouldn't give one to my little kid because I think they would want to feed them way more than you should.
Right.
But that would be detrimental. I mean, you're adding all that ammonia and crap to all the uneaten food to the tank, and even the algae, if it did get those nutrients, it's not going to take off fast enough to really manage a huge overflow like that.
Right. And one thing, when you overfeed Opae Ula, one of the first things you'll notice, if it's not like grossly overfeeding, but it is overfeeding, you'll notice they'll stop breeding. It really slows them down. As soon as they get some extra nutrients in water, just like, boom, they'll stop breeding many times.
Wow.
And then, so if you see them breeding and you know they're breeding, you're probably doing a pretty good job at not overfeeding them.
Wow, that's really cool. Justin has a very open-ended question. The breeding conditions is just having your tank set up with the right salinity and cycled. That's it.
Yep.
You put them in and they go. Like I said, I had eggs. I had buried shrimp in the first 2 weeks. And then after I fed, it was probably just because the development of them. But right after that, I had the free-floating babies.
Yep.
And still had a buried female somewhere out of the 12 even. I still had one with the berries.
Yeah. So just make sure you have approximately 50% marine salinity. It doesn't have to be exactly there. I've done it much lower salinities, but something like that. And then give them some hiding places. Like Josh has got his lava structure here. I've got a big pile of lava in my tank too. That helps, but it's not necessary, but it seems to help. And then just make sure you don't overfeed and you're golden. Do you want me to go into the other room and just kind of give a tour of the entire tank? Because we're looking at a small portion of the tank right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be super cool.
I'll turn my microphone on and I'll pop on over there.
Okay, let's put that on there. Let's put that on screen. I don't know if you guys see on mine in this corner. I haven't using my mouse again, and then I'll point at it with my finger. In that bottom right corner, there is a, I think it's a dried out urchin or something. My stepmom sent me from Washington State. She found it on the beach. Shipped fine. It's super thin. As soon as I put it in the tank, I dropped it the last inch and it shattered and broke in half. That was supposed to be a hide for them.
Oh, shoot. That's sad.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Hey, that's the same shelf that mine are on.
Yeah. I love these baker shelves. They're awesome. So let's see if I can give you a tour of the tank a little bit. So we were just looking at this spot here where we're feeding them, but there are shrimp all over the tank. This is a 10-gallon. Let's see.
Okay.
So on this end, I have a big pile of lava, rock. They all go in the crevices and everything, which is nice. I have a smaller pile over on this side, so one on each side, but this is smaller. You can see the different algae, and I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. Back here, it's predominantly I don't know what to call it, the fluffier algae.
Feather algae. We'll call it feather algae.
Feather algae. I love that. Let's call it feather algae. And here's some more of the feather algae here up to the left, on the left corner. There's some here, and then right here the tangled algae dominates and grows up in these long areas over here, and over here dominates as well. Here's a rare bare patch of the aragonite sand. Here's one of the snails. You can see a few of the snails here. There's one glass right there. They stay quite small. Here's a couple more over here, just in the algae and whatnot. But they stay small and they don't overpopulate the tank. But you get an idea of the activity in the tank. You can see shrimp at all levels. You can see shrimp all the way in the back. I'm going to try to see if I can zoom in on the babies a little bit.
They're everywhere.
Bunch of babies floating around in the water column right there.
Oh, yeah. See, guys, those little red specks. I'm going to point at the camera again. They're just tiny little red specks that kind of bob around.
Yeah, here's one right up close to the glass if I can focus.
Oh, yeah.
Is it focusing on it a little bit?
A little bit.
It's hard to do because I can't zoom with StreamYard, but...
Do you see how it looks like a bobber, guys? Oh, there's a million of them just floating there.
Yeah.
You see them going back a ways.
There's dozens of them in there right now. Wow. So you can see a bunch of them under the light there, like you're saying. They love the light.
Yeah. They like to sit right where the light is intense. That's when I first noticed them, and then it reminded me of brine shrimp nutfly because they will just be in a weird column right in the light.
They go right after the light. Oh, here's a different... they look a lot different from this angle, like color-wise. The light looks very different on them. I think they look a little redder here.
They look a little redder there. That other one, the one at the very bottom, is bright yellow.
Like isn't that funky? It's funky when they look like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think
I want to see if I can... Mine are mostly like whitish. I don't have a lot of brightly colored ones, but maybe I need to get more keratin in there.
Yeah, get some of the Hematococcus algae or some of the... or just do the pure spirulina powder or some Hematococcus astaxanthin, and that'll redden them up.
I notice you have the mix, but I think most of mine are at least muted. Even my brightest red is muted from yours. There's a big guy. There's a big guy there. Guys, these guys are so fun. With clam and sea snail shells make good hides for them. I don't see why not.
Yeah, as long as they're cleaned off well enough.
Anything you can put in a freshwater aquarium that you're comfortable with, that I would be comfortable. I would put it in my tank.
Yeah, I've put shells in mine, not in this particular tank, but my first couple of years, I had a 2.5 gallon tank that I put mine in, and I had all kinds of shells that I collected at the beach in Hawaii and put them in. I even had, this was really cool, and I loved it, but I don't have them anymore. I had these little serpent stars that would live in the tank with the Opae Ula.
Oh.
And wow. They're these little parthenogenic serpent stars that only get to be about an inch in diameter, and they're actually bioluminescent. They give off these little blue flashes of light, and I wish I still had some. I don't anymore, but they were super cool.
And they can live in the same conditions as Opae?
I think they require more nutrients, and at the time I was giving my Opae Ula too many nutrients, and they weren't breeding.
Okay.
Because it took me a little while to dial into that, because I didn't find... I was breeding the shrimp before I found the super shrimp information. I was successfully breeding the shrimp, but I think it was because I just dialed way back on the food, and then once I read the instructions on super shrimp, it was even easier to make sure they were constantly breeding. And they pretty much constantly breed unless something weird happens. Like after I had that thing with the lockdown and I didn't feed my shrimp more than twice in the 5 months, they slowed down in breeding a lot, because too much food will slow them down, but not enough food will also slow them down. So they slowed down in breeding for a while, but then I was feeding them more regularly. They sped back up, and now they're babies, commonly.
I think I'm going to up to 2 weeks. I think I'm going to up my feedings to every 2 weeks to try to boost the numbers a little bit. Is that being on like a every 3 weeks to a month schedule?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's doing it much good.
And yeah, and you can try that and see how it goes, and then just if it doesn't do anything, then just dial back again, because I give these food every 2 weeks to a month, and they're still breeding like crazy. So
I'm trying to see if there's a varied female that I haven't seen one yet.
let me see. I see one who has only a really small amount of berries. Let's see if I can get to her. Sometimes I see them. It's crazy they can even carry those many.
Yeah.
It's like insane. But I have some pictures of some of those. But I don't see. Where'd she go? Darn it! I lost her.
They're so fast, and they're always doing something.
Yeah. Well, there's some really, really red ones in there in the mix. So like you said, it's mixed. Some of them are super red. Yeah, I lost the buried female. Sorry, I don't see her. But if I see another one really quick.
And I believe I speak for Russ here, but when they're breeding like crazy, it's like in this tank you'll have 15 females with eggs.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they're still
that's crazy.
They're still much slower breeders than like Neocaridina, and they don't have as many babies as Neocaridina either. But yeah, you can see it's not uncommon for me to look in a tank and see 2 or 3 females that are just look like they're going to explode. But for them, like 20 is a huge number of babies for these guys.
I feel like their eggs are disproportionately large too. Like
they probably
they wouldn't be this big in like a ghost shrimp or Neocardinia.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Like 10 is probably a good number, average.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere around 6, 8, 10, somewhere in there. And then sometimes you'll see them with 20 or so, but that's huge.
Yeah, that's kind of about when I see babies. I'll see like 10 babies. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm guessing that the 20-something babies that are in here are from more than one female, probably 2 or 3 females.
Probably yes. Time. Well, and I like that the development cycle is pretty slow too. Like them growing to full size, it takes a while.
It really does. It takes a while for them to do it. So it helps make sure you're not going to get overcrowded. Now, like I said, I set up this tank 10 years or so ago, and it's not overcrowded. I don't know how many are in here. Probably a couple hundred, 200, 300 maybe. I don't know. But it's not overcrowded at all. It's just
it doesn't look crowded. It only looks crowded because you have that food there. There's this swarm.
Right. Like right here, it looks crowded. But yeah, if you just look at the tank and you see them swimming around, it doesn't look bad at all. And I regularly, not regularly, but it's not like I do it every month or anything, but I will sell, 20, 40 shrimp at a time out of this tank, and it doesn't even make a dent.
So funny. But the activity that you guys see that isn't the swarm all over the tank, all over the tank, that's normal. That's what I think makes them such a great pet too. Is it's something to look at. It's very zen. It's just like this. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this like cube of life that's just doing its thing. There's no. This is what it would be like in their environment.
Right. There is something very zen about it, and that's part of the reason I have one of the tanks on my office desk at work, because if I need like 2 minutes to just relax my brain because everything's so stressful, I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to look at my tank. I'm going to feed them, and now I'm good.
Yeah. Maybe that's a little better light. It's just, I don't know, guys. For bang for your buck, this is one of the best pets you can get. So it's just, that's all it is. For ease. The initial investment could be a little high just because if you want to get a good colony going. I don't know. What do you charge for the Opae?
It's usually like $2 a shrimp, $2.50 a shrimp, depending.
Oh, okay. Never mind, guys. It's super cheap. So.
Oh, I found one with one egg. Where'd she go? Shoot.
That's one egg.
Kind of random. She only has one, but yeah, they're not that expensive. So I wouldn't recommend starting out with a really small number either. Like we said, 6 counts are crummy. Get more than 6. I would say get 15 if you can get more. I started out with about 35 or 40 of them, and that was a
Okay.
good move to start out with a larger number. It's going to work faster, you know.
I might even want to beef up my numbers or to start a new tank with other shrimp. I could definitely take some out of the tank that I have, but I want to get a swarm like this.
Yeah, well, you know, some people, when I first got this tank, I put like, I don't remember how many I put in. Some of mine from my other tanks, probably like 20 or something, and in a 10-gallon tank, you couldn't even tell they were there. You know,
Yeah.
because there were so few of them, the density was poor. It didn't look like there was anything. So I went online and bought like 75 more and put them in.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll boost your numbers.
Yeah, and then I felt comfortable because you could see them, and then they started breeding, and then everything was fine. But I just got impatient. I didn't need to buy those 75 shrimp, but I got a good deal on them, and I figured, hey, and so I did.
I mean, what did it hurt? Nothing. It just
Yeah,
made your tank better.
the only thing it did, I guess, was, and well, didn't even do that because the original stock was the locality from the Big Island, and then I don't know where the other ones came from, but it doesn't really
Okay.
matter. I mean, there are different localities with different appearances to some degree. Some of them are brighter red, some of them are not. There's at least one population from Oahu that has bands of pale colors on it, like
Oh wow.
pale bands on it and things like that. So I think it's the Pohiki locality. Looks like that. So there are various types and whatnot, and these are just Opae Ula from at least 3 sources because I bought that group of 75. I had my original stock, which came from Curtistown area in Big Island, and then I bought those from Walmart.
Yeah.
So 3 different localities, I guess.
The Walmart locality.
The Walmart locality. Yeah.
The Death Cube locality. I can't find it awesome that somebody has one. Has had it for 6 years. Fishy Plumber.
Yeah. Yeah, they can survive for a really long time. It's just a lot of people will figure out ways to end up feeding their shrimp when they live in those so that they do better. Like they'll drill a hole or whatever. Find some way of getting in there.
That would be cool. I think
the
that
Walmart
cool.
ones were just plastic containers, so it was easy to just open it. It wasn't a big deal. But
okay.
Some of them are like glass and they seal it.
Yeah, I think the ones that I saw all those years ago at Walgreens were glass, and it was just a sealed thing, and I was blown away. I was in this Walgreens standing at the counter for an hour trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. About at that time, does anybody have any questions about these guys? Petition for Frank to mod ISO Buddies. I think Frank does enough modding. I thought about asking him a while ago, but I think Frank does enough. Frank, if you're interested, throw me a message. But I think you're good. Oh, Plumber got a fancy one. It's made of glass.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh la la. While we're waiting for questions, Russ, I wanted to ask you a question completely off topic.
Sure.
So the cicadas are coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a bumper crop year. I don't know where you stand on cicadas. So let's find out.
Okay. I'm kind of a fan just because they're so bizarre and alien looking. We've had a couple of bumper crop years in the past few years here. We don't get the 17-year species, but we do get the fluctuations where they're everywhere one year. And the really loud ones that you find in the South kind of bother me if there's too many of them because they're just loud. But as far as the insects themselves, I think they're pretty cool. My wife's not a big fan.
We have the loud ones. They're probably not the same ones you're talking about, but we have some pretty loud ones here that are just
super annoying.
Yeah, I'm with your wife on this one. I'm with Mrs. Wilson on this one. I can't stand them. I was trying to think of bugs that we don't need. I want to say centipedes, but it's not. Like centipedes take care of stuff. They feed stuff. Like they take care of other animals that we don't need or have abundance of. I begrudgingly say that because I hate them. I have eaten cicadas. Jedi. Tell that in a minute. But I want to say cicadas. Here's my thing. Most animals aren't smart enough or aren't instinctively smart enough to stop breeding when there's an abundance of food. they'll overbreed. So then the year after the cicada boom, you'll have like, I don't know, more birds that survived because they had an abundance of food, or more whatever else that eats them survived because they had this abundance of food. And then the next year, there's not enough to really support that population.
Right.
That might be an excuse, another excuse to just hate cicadas, but I'll take it.
There you go. I can follow that.
It's just like what eats them that is so important. What important food source? An average year, I get it. There's things that are out to eat them, but like these bumper crop years, it's like that's such a weird adaptation to be underground for 17 years and then bloom into full growth.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. I've heard that there are some animals that you wouldn't even remotely suspect of taking advantage of a food source like that. Like baby copperhead snakes apparently will go after cicadas.
Oh, wow. I know squirrels. Our squirrels go crazy when there's a bumper crop, especially when they can pick them off the tree, molting out of their gross alien baby form.
Yeah, easy pickings, nice and tender.
That's how I wound up eating some. Is we were at a party. This was back when I did a lot of drinking, and we were outside, and it was cicada season. It was one of those great years, and there was a guy who was really, really more drunk than anybody else at the party. So we made a bet to see who could make this guy throw up. If you could make him throw up, you won the money. So I found 3 of these pupated cicadas on the tree and threw them in my mouth and just open mouth chewed them in front. That did the trick. That was like $60, I think, that put in my pocket. So.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, but I almost threw up too, so it wasn't really a win-win. But yeah, I earned that $60. Yeah, I just don't see I don't know. That's a weird adaptation to be underground for 17 years. Like, is the adaptation your predators died off by then because there was nothing to eat?
It must be something like that, like the fact that predators can't survive at the numbers where they can make a reasonable dent when you're doing that, so that you're able to breed, and whatever gets eaten is just, it's not enough to make a
like collateral damage.
Yeah, it's a moderate amount of damage, but you're still able to reproduce because nothing can anticipate that, like ecologically anticipate that huge boom.
Yeah,
enough to make a dent in the population that's significant. I guess that would be my guess.
I mean, that makes sense. That's like when they have those billions of crabs that hatch on the Virgin Islands, I think it is.
Yeah, or
like there's nothing you can do.
Right, or the sea turtles. The idea is quantity over quality. So I'm gonna lay 100 eggs here, and a bunch of my fellow turtles are going to do the same thing. They're all going to come out at the same time, and the sharks and the birds and the raccoons and everybody are going to come after us, but enough of them are going to get away because there's no way you can get all of them.
That is such a gauntlet. And the birds and the raccoons and everybody know what's happening. Like they like have it on their calendar. They're ready to go.
Yeah, it's so sad watching that with all the crabs and the fish and the sharks and everybody going after them.
It's at every level. It's like, how do they get away?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then what happens?
I guess it's just sheer numbers. So some of them make it.
It's got to be. Because they don't know what they do. They don't know where they go to grow. They guess, but
I heard that they found that they go out to the sargassum beds growing, and they hang out in there for a while.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would be a good spot, I guess. Lots of stuff to eat there.
Yeah, and a place
to rest. Lots of
plastic. Yeah, nowadays. That's true.
God. So, well, this is awesome. Guys, you can get Opae for real cheap, apparently, for a real reasonable price from Aquarimax Pets. That's a really great price. That's like what you need. That's as many as you need, about a dozen to 15 for $30-$40.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. You're going to pay that in shipping, basically. So that's good. With probably a little moss ball.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah. But if you're going to do it, try to get your tank cycled for, I think I did 2 months almost.
2 months is usually adequate, yeah.
Yeah.
You get the
I don't
algae
remember
first,
what.
the snails first.
Yeah, the longer the better. Yeah, if you can get the snails, acclimate them to the brackish and then drop them in. Like I just did the 2. I had the 2, and now I got to get more snails. So or split them up, I guess. Well, the thing is, they don't need the snails in there once it's established, right?
Right, they don't.
Okay,
It's
so I can
it's
take one out.
helpful. It's helpful, but you don't really need to worry about it.
Yeah, I can take. There's one right there. Oh my gosh, they're just so cool. I don't know what to tell you guys. If you're not sold on these guys by now, I don't know what else to do. But they could live in a Christmas ornament, you guys. I don't know what else to tell you. You could have them on one of those hanging deals. Oh, here you go. Can you see these hanging deals? Right, not on that camera. You can't.
I can't see them very well. Oh, now I can.
Oh, no. Kind of. Yeah, see that little jewel right there hanging?
Yeah.
You could put Opae in there, like 2 Opae and an air plant over the top. It would look really cool. It would look really cool. You'd have everything you wanted. It would be a beast to cycle that thing, but you could do it. Yeah, I have enough that I could split them up, but I'd probably get another batch too.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, just start it up again. But, oh yeah, Moon is still here too. Do you just dust regular goldfish? What? Old Bay? Old Bay goldfish crackers. What snails go with Old Bay? Just, we were talking about it. You can get the little trumpet snails and acclimate them to brackish water, and they're good to go. The ones that you would have like in the pest snails that you would have in your fish tank. I think mine finished their little bit of cake. There's not too much activity there on the mountaintop.
I think mine are still going. I probably put a bigger.
They sure are.
I think this was a 2 millimeter pellet. Let me see what it says.
It looked really small. It looked like a dog med or something, like a pill you would give your dog.
Yeah, it was very small. It doesn't. You don't see where it says the measurement on it, but I think they're 2 millimeter pellets.
Okay.
Here, I'll hold one up.
And they're still going at it an hour and a half later.
Yeah, here's the piece of food. That was what I gave them.
Jeez, that's tiny. That's tiny.
And
that's about twice what I gave my tiny tank, and your guys are still going at it. So you can see that they don't eat much. Is it Malaysian trumpets, Russ?
Yeah, Malaysian trumpet snails. Yeah.
Okay.
It only took a couple of days to acclimate them to the brackish water, and then they've been breeding ever since. So that was like,
oh, there they are.
What did I say? 10 years ago? I don't know.
10 years, yeah.
10 years ago that I put them in here, and these are obviously descendants of the originals. So they do just fine. Many generations later, and not overcrowding the tank. You can see that there are just moderate numbers in here.
Yeah, mine have not bred at all. So.
And they never get big in this tank either. Like in a freshwater tank, you can get them. Sometimes they'll be like almost 2 inches long, but here, not even close. Not even. I rarely see them an inch long, if that.
Yeah, I think mine are still around a half inch or something, or 2/3.
Yeah, I think maybe 3/4 of an inch at the most in the brackish water is what I've seen.
Kate just asked how many animals you have, so we're going to go another 2 hours while you walk around the house and just count.
I have no idea.
I'll tell you right now, I promise you, Russ can't name all the species he has right now. Like, he couldn't give you a number on that right off the top of his head.
I could not. I promise you the same thing. Look, there's a buried female right there.
Oh, right there. Look at her. She's ready to go. Oh, that's a good amount of eggs. Yeah.
That's a nice batch there.
That's kind of a huge amount of eggs. That's probably close to a dozen.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time focusing on her outside the picture, but yeah, probably around that.
Back up just a little bit. Maybe back up just a little. There you go. Yeah, you can really see like the proportion to her size is pretty big. It's like a chicken egg almost.
Yeah,
count each isopod and shrimp individually. Russ secretly owns every animal. Russ owns your animals too.
Yeah.
How much would a 3 to 5 gallon bare bones setup with shrimp and snails cost roughly? 3 to 5 gallons bare bones. Here's the problem with that guy, Bob, is you have to buy a bag of. I had to buy a bag of the aquarium salt, like the marine salt, that I'll have for the rest of my life. It was the smallest bag I could find. That was like $5. I bought the smallest bag of argonite sand I could buy, or not the argonite sand, but the crushed coral, and that I'll have forever. And that was $10 maybe. The tank was 20. The shrimp I got would probably be about $20 if you were buying the shrimp. The lava rock was about $8 total. And what else? Distilled water.
Distilled water, a couple bucks, a few bucks for
What's
that.
the algae cost? What was it, like $5 a little bunch?
Probably, yeah, something like that.
So know what that is, like $50?
Yeah, somewhere between
Like-
50 and 100.
Yeah, and the problem with that number is you're going to have a lot of stuff left over. Like a lot of the supplies you're buying, the actual supplies you're going to have left over.
You could set up 2 tanks for the same price, but you can't really get less than that.
Yeah, really. You could. Yes, you could. You could set up 2 tanks.
Or set up a 10-gallon tank for the same price as a 3-gallon, or something like that.
Your cost for a 10-gallon is going to be the same as a 3-gallon. So that's kind of the beauty and the problem of it.
Yeah.
So, but I could expand my collection probably 6 times my setups with what I have. So the salt never really goes away. You don't have to replenish it. Oh, there she is.
There she is. Oh, she went behind the silicone. Dang it.
She did. She needs some privacy.
Oh, well.
I like that yours get in the same tickle fights that mine do. Like they'll come together and just like looks like they're just tickling each other
Yeah, totally.
with their 50 legs. Oh my gosh, what's going on there?
I put another piece of food in. That
Oh,
piece of food I showed y'all, I just tossed it in. Because they'll eat up to 2 or 3. This group will eat up to 2 or 3 pieces at a time.
Okay,
So
good. At least you have some of the like clear ones that I have.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
feel
I
so
do.
bad anymore.
There's some clear ones.
I thought I was doing something wrong, but I have a couple guys that are pretty red. I have a lot of these guys that are in the middle. Like you've got a lot of the guys that are kind of like red patches almost.
Yeah. And I think this tank has some of the ones from that 75 that I bought. I have 2 tanks that have a mixed stock, and then 2 tanks that are just pure stock from my original group. And so the pure stock is redder on average. The stock that I purchased later is not as red, so you're seeing some of the ones that are less red in this tank, partly because of that.
Okay. And I don't know, personally, I don't care. I like the variation. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
And then if you increase the keratin load, it's pretty great. But I can set up a 50 for like $30 more, said every aquarist ever.
Yeah, exactly.
If you did a 50-gallon tank of these guys, holy cow.
That would be something. You could have thousands of them in there, easily.
Thousands and thousands. Yes. Just, you know what? You can save water volume too. Just fill the tank with lava rock, like the stuff you would have in your garden.
Oh, yeah.
And then add the Opae. Like top it off with water, add the Opae, and go nuts.
There you go.
Super natural.
Yeah, you wouldn't see as many of them, but it would look cool.
No, not ever. You'd never know how many you had.
Yeah.
Very low maintenance. Frank, I think the maintenance would be exactly the same.
Yeah. It's like,
you had a
don't do
100
anything
gallon
ever,
or a 1
except
gallon. Yeah.
Feed them twice a week, top off the water once every 2 months. End of story.
So do you feed twice a week on
I mean,
average?
twice a month, I meant. Sorry.
Twice a month. Okay.
Yeah, twice a month.
Yeah, twice a month, you guys. You'd have them stop breeding. I think it's weird that they stop breeding when they get too much food. You would think they would take advantage of those nutrients.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think it's the nitrates build up in the water or something, and it throws them off.
It kind of makes sense because that would be a temporary food source in their native environment.
Yeah, and it would be less likely to affect the water quality in a situation like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. They're just so fun. I go watch these guys the rest of the night. So just leave your camera on, and I'll just sit here.
And just let it go. 24-hour Opae can.
I just want these numbers.
Yep,
But they breathe so slow. Like, don't expect these numbers right away, guys. You'll be real sad. Don't do it. Get a smaller tank. Start with a really small setup. My pea puffers would revolt. Kate, that's my goal now is pea puffers. If I did feed at least one time a day. Let's just cool it too full for love. Yeah, if you want a big population right away, guys, buy a big population.
Yeah, that's the way to go if you want a big number. Because you're going to be waiting years.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. With you said you bought like 75 at once or something. You could just drop those in your tank. Like, that's another reason of having it really well seasoned.
Mm-hmm.
First is you can just drop those 75 in your tank. You don't have to be like, oh, here's 10 today, here's 10 the next day. No, just dump them in.
I'm trying to track this female. See the buried female's up against the glass again.
Oh, there she is. I see her. Wait, go
back.
Up. Where'd she go?
I lost her.
She went down, I think.
I think she did. I don't see her. I think she went into the algae, so that's the end of that.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was getting a little seasick, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's kind of wiggly. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's just a red shrimp. I find out that's the ones that I think are more buried are the ones that I have that are really red, and it's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really got to look. Because, guys, I can't stress how, like, tiny these shrimp are, too.
Yeah, they are minuscule.
Can you put your finger up on the glass?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's an adult right at his fingertip. Yeah, you can see that they're barely as long as the fingernail. So, maybe.
And this one's a little bigger. I mean, but it's not a whole lot bigger.
He's as long as your finger is wide. Like, that's not.
That's a large adult right there.
And I can't imagine you have big fingers.
They're not huge. They're not small fingers either, but they're not like average size fingers.
We're going to start a new site. Rate Russ's Fingers. RateMyFingers.com.
I have, fairly big hands, I guess.
That's a good spread.
Yeah. But, yeah, they're not big shrimp.
No, they're tiny. So, all right, guys. Go get some shrimp. Go get a tank. Go fill it. Let it cycle for a long time. And then call Russ.
Yeah. Use distilled water. Don't use tap water.
Yep. Use distilled water because all those minerals are going to sit there. Because you want it to be as pure as possible so that everything is set up good times. Oh, Wendy's still here?
Awesome.
4:30 a.m. there now.
Wow.
Where are you at, Wendy?
Your dedication, Wendy, I do.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's got to be one of your people.
She is, yeah.
Okay. My people are not that dedicated. They're cool. My South Korean crew is pretty dope.
Oh, yeah.
My South Korean people still watch in the closed captions, apparently.
Oh,
so
that's
if
awesome.
you're there, how you doing? I don't know what that is in South Korean. I need to figure it out.
I think it's 안녕하세요.
There, okay.
I think I pronounced it slightly wrong, but that's pretty much how you say that.
Okay. All right. Russ handling my South Korean crew. Yeah, my full 100% of the people that watch it with closed captions watch South Korean closed captions. So, Kate occasionally risks her job to tune in. Okay. All right. That's dedicated.
That is dedication as well.
It's probably because I call her Kate DeJonia. So that's how they say it. But yeah, well, we're gonna tie it up, and then Russ, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Always a treat. So I am gonna talk to you later, sir. I'm gonna pull you out and do my closing.
All right. Catch you later.
All right, bud. I will. All right, there goes Russ. Let's just leave the shrimp on. What do you think, guys? Should we just do that? No, let's just leave the shrimp. There we go. That's even better. Russ's Shrimp just left the building. They are out of the green room. So, guys, go get some Opae. Like, get set up now. The smallest tank you can find. So, something cool. If you want to set up some dream scenario where it's a tiny, like a shot glass, like literally, you could do a ball glass jar, whatever you want. You could do a 6 foot tall by 1 foot square and be gone, and just have a great time with it. Other than that, we got a new Arthropod Father is the new patron. Started last week. Thank you so much for joining. All the rest of the crew, my Patreon card thing is still over there, which is not the way I'm pointing, but it's still over there. They do look like giant sea monkeys. Essentially, this is what they are, Luke. Speaking of our patrons, patreon.com/isobuddies. The lowest thing, I think, is $1, and Patreon keeps suggesting I up that lowest price. But, you know, hey, it helps us out. We got new earphones. I got new mics, all from you guys. So I hope it worked out. Was the sound good? It sounded like I was getting some radio interference or something at one point. Hearing voices. That could just be me. But yeah, we had a great time. I hope you guys had a great time. Go check out Aquarimax Pets when you're ready. At least 6 weeks. Cycle that tank. No, don't mess around. Get yourself some snails. Figure it out. And then go nuts. I mean, they're awesome. I'm going to try to get Russ to connect all of his tanks with tubes like they would have in the wild. So, but love you guys. $5 a month is less than one Starbucks drink. It is item 13. Thank you. Join item 13. He's another one. So we've got some great. Go take a dump and get some rest. Yes, I'm going to do that. So, Frank with the good advice. Guys, next week is going to be just me, I think. I haven't heard back from Wally yet. It might be Wally joining me. We're going to do some community appreciation days. And this is for essentially the iSpot community, but I think everybody is branched out. So ISO buddies. So, oh, Kate, you're a sweetie. Thank you so much. Everybody else have a great week. I hope it's awesome. Stay warm. Love you. Love the show. Well, of course I love the show. It's my show.